Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for the sun in the 4th house in the natal chart. And the sun represents the ego, and that is the healthy ego, I should add, not thinking that you're better than somebody else, but simply having a sense of identity of yourself as an individual in the world among other individuals, and how you stand out, how you differ from other people, and also really knowing who that individual is. Not, in other words, not relying on other people to tell you who you are, but having that deep knowledge of who you are in that sense. And the sun is the personality, so how you act and how other people perceive you, based on your actions, based on how you express yourself, and also a sense of purpose. So this can definitely be connected to career matters. And so this is what really makes astrology so much more sophisticated than some people give it credit for. Because, your sun sign itself can point to what type of career appeals to you, along with other things like the North Node and the midheaven, whatever. But in addition to that, what house the sun is in can give further indication, or simply more possibilities. If it doesn't just kind of dovetail with the sun sign, then it might just give other options for the person. And, it's not necessarily all that uncommon for somebody to have more than one profession in life. I mean, sometimes people change careers, or they have two different jobs that are very important to them. Maybe not equally, but they're doing both of them. So what does the 4th house represent? Well, the 4th house is the first water house, and the water houses are the 4th, Cancer. That's the ruler of the 4th house, first water sign, Cancer, and therefore the moon rules the 4th house. The 8th house, Scorpio, ruled by Pluto and Mars, and the 12th house, Pisces, ruled by Neptune. And so the 4th house is significant because it's an angular house. The angular houses are the cusp of the 4th, and well, we just say the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses. And these are cardinal houses, cardinal signs, okay? And this is where the action is. So we look to these areas to provide some of the significant goings-on in the person's life. So the 4th house is the house of family and home. And the family of origin, let's talk about that. This is your family growing up. This is also going to include your ancestors. So your grandparents and, your forefathers is what they call them. When I was looking on various sites to compile this list, I'm going to give a shout out to Codex, because I get so much information from them. They're great people, CODEX, so you can check them out if you are a student of astrology. But one thing, when they mention ancestors, I was thinking of ancestral karma, because I have been hearing about that, and I don't know if that's a shamanic belief or if it encompasses many different belief systems. But, I've gone to spiritual workshops where they've talked about ancestral karma. And I know that there are other cultures that really focus on ancestors, like I've seen in Chinese restaurants, or maybe is it Buddhism, Taoism? I don't know. I see sometimes they leave out food for the ancestors, and I think that's an Eastern Asian type of a belief. So, in any case, I kind of always shrugged that off because I felt like, okay, whatever, how can we have karma that is physical in nature but is also connected to karma? To me, karma is something that has to do with reincarnation and not anything like with a physical family lineage. But then I thought about something, let's talk about alcoholism or other types of addictive behavior or mental illness. It does tend to run in families, does it not? And not only in terms of physical, or even like physical vulnerabilities, I don't know how else to say it, where you have a propensity for heart attacks in a certain family, and so on and so forth. So there does seem to be this, and I'm not going to attempt to act like I can explain this in a very cogent way. I was reading about it somewhere, and it was so brilliant, but I can't remember exactly how they put it. But yeah, that's one of the things that is represented by the fourth house. So it goes back. But if you just forget about using the term ancestral karma, let's say, just think about if one of your parents was raised by an alcoholic, and even if your parent did not drink, they may have developed certain dysfunctional behavior as a result of their parents' addiction, and it affects you. So it still does impact future generations. So an example would be if you have a parent that has a hard time really letting down their likes to have a facade and acts like everything is okay. And if they came from like a dysfunctional environment, they may have done that in order just to avoid people prying into the private life, or because they were ashamed. And they continue to do it to this day, and it affects you because you try to really have a deep conversation with them, and they're always on. They're always putting on an act, and you don't feel like you can connect to them very deeply. So that the drinking or other dysfunctional behavior of the grandparent or great grandparent affects future generations. The fourth house is obviously your physical house, and also what you consider home. So if you always remember a house that you lived in growing up, and it could be torn down, and you still, that's where your heart is, in that home. That is the fourth house. And I would add, I didn't see it on any of the lists that I looked at, but I would add your hometown, where you come from. Your roots is definitely going to be part of this. So you may live across the country in another country, and you still have a place in your heart for your hometown, for that place where you grew up. Your foundation is the fourth house. So again, some people are rootless, right? Some people have a hard time settling down in one place. When I see Uranus in the fourth house, that is indicative of somebody that may have grown up having a lot of different households. Maybe they didn't live with their family and they lived with relatives and they were bounced around. With the sun in the fourth house, this is going to be Very important, the home, because the sun is a very important thing. So it's also the place where you act behind closed doors, when nobody, it's your nest, it's your kingdom, and how you act in that space, how you were raised. So when the sun is in the fourth house, home and family are everything to you. And this is very important when we talk about sun signs, because this is a feminine energy being ruled by Cancer and the moon. So, and I think a lot of people get it, that the home life is a place of nurturing. It's supposed to be, and that it would indicate a feminine type of environment. And yet, what if you're a fire sign that is masculine, or an air sign masculine? So what if you are an Aries with the sun in the fourth house? You're going to be more interested in domesticity, or however you pronounce it, domestic life. And this is where it gets very interesting, because it does color and influence this particular area. Softens somebody who has a sun in Aries, or a sun, well, I was going to say a sun in Leo, but I can see a sun in Leo taking that mantle of being the king of their castle. That's, Leos are very good at that. So that their house could be their kingdom. And I would say too, I don't know if this is borne out by any kind of actual astrologer who has tried to research this, but I would imagine that if your sun sign is in a fire sign, that you may have a big house, because fire is expansive. So if you are a fire sign listening to this, and you do crave, if you don't have one right now, that is your dream, is to have a big house, please comment below. I'm a fire sign, but my sun is in the 8th house, and I don't have my own house. I have like a flat, but if I lived in a house, I would want a smaller house. But some people really want that kind of large structure, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is connected to fire signs. If your sun is in a water sign, then you are really, really domestic. And if you are someone who has a career, you may try to do whatever you can to work from home. I would even go as far as that, because you just are somebody who is very comfortable in the home. And I could see like earth signs really loving to tinker around the house and build, maybe be your own carpenter, or, even going into that line of work. I could see that. For instance, if your sun is in Taurus and you have it in the 4th house. Because the earth signs are very tangible. So they're looking for that kind of proof of their efforts when it comes to the energy that they're putting into this house, being a sun sign and pouring that energy into it. So your ego is tied to your home. So, just whatever your house looks like, I would say, some of these things I'm kind of coming up on the fly as I read the key phrases that I wrote down from different websites. But I would say I wouldn't be surprised if somebody with this home placement, if you don't have a house, that might be one of your greatest aspirations, is to own a home, because not everybody really cares about that. We're brainwashed to think that everybody wants to own a home, but not necessarily. But this for somebody with the sun in the fourth house, it almost like they're proving something to themselves and others by having the ability to own a home. And not just about the money, but about this ability to kind of have a established roots. This may be like on the emotional level, that you really feel like it's important. It's not just nice, it's important. And I could see somebody with the sun in the fourth house who really wants to have a family and a house from an early age. And I remember I had a girlfriend in high school who was always talking about her wedding and her marriage, or I don't know if she was talking about having kids, but I remember thinking, because we were like probably 15 years old, I was thinking, gosh, that was not something that I was even considering or even fantasizing about for the future. But some people are. And even if you're a male, because the sun represents the father, you may want to become a father. Even when you're in high school, you may fantasize about when you get older and you can become a father. And, or, when you're 20 years old and all of your friends are like, oh, wow, I get to be free and do all this, and all you can think about is getting married and having kids, because it is a very domestic placement, and this can make you a lot different than your peers in that sense. It's we would call this traditional. I think it's fair to say. And I just want to state that there is some debate among astrology experts over whether the fourth house represents the father or the mother. It kind of irks me because the fourth house is ruled by Cancer and the moon. The moon is connected to the mother. To me, end of story. Okay, Cancer is connected to the mother, end of story. So there's some reasons why they connect the father, but the 10th house is the opposing house, and you're going to tell me that's the mother, that's the house of the career. Now, some astrologers will tell you that it should be the more nurturing parent, that is the fourth house, the one who stayed home to raise the kids. And as we know, especially nowadays, it's not always the mother. Sometimes it's the father is a stay-at-home dad, and the mother is the breadwinner going out with the career. I still maintain that the fourth house is the mother and the 10th house is the father. That's just how I roll. So I wanted to give you different viewpoints so that you can come to your own decision based upon your own intuition. So the person who has a sun in the fourth house may come from a prominent family, so a famous family, but I would say not just somebody, they come from a family of celebrities, but maybe a whole lineage. So this could be like with politics or royalty or something like that. And the person may know this and be proud of that fact. Again, with the sun, we have that pride, that ego, that sense of identity. And they may really base a lot of who they are based on what their family stands for. So, for instance, I could see, I'm kind of running with this, if somebody comes from a prominent political family, they may decide to go into politics themselves simply because this is the family business. And actually, this particular sun placement does indicate that the person may go into the family's business. And this could also be, there was something else. I'll get to that in a bit because I want to stay with my list here. This person may be patriotic because it's dealing with home and country. So even if the person lives overseas for whatever reason, for work, they may hold a special place in their heart for their country of origin, and they may just love all of the, how do you say it, accoutrement, I don't speak French, all of the accompanying thingies that go along with, patriotism, the history. History is associated with Cancer. And the past is Cancer. So I could see somebody with the sun in the fourth house being a history buff, especially when it comes to their own country and knowing a lot of facts about their own country, and maybe even as a profession becoming a history teacher, especially if they have a sun in Gemini, or a sign that is associated with teaching. Even Cancer is associated with teaching, but Sagittarius and Virgo, Gemini, those are the ones I think of first and foremost. I added this one myself, being a homebody. I'm actually quite surprised that I didn't see that. And I was kind of debating whether or not to explore the term homebody, because some people might think homebody is a bad thing, and it's not. It's just somebody who prefers their home to, let's say, going to some loud concert. Like if you have the sun in the fourth house, you may love nothing better to do on a Saturday night than sit at home in your jammies and sip a cup of tea, and maybe if you have a fireplace, sit by the fire and just relax rather than going out. And so even if you're like a fire sign, people may say, gosh, you're in Aries and you're home on Saturday night? Yeah, because I don't need to be out there. That's not where my focus is or my happiness. It's being at home, being around my kinfolk. And so that could be what is something that is the most enjoyable for you. You may, in addition to working in the family business, you may gravitate towards a profession selling real estate, because you may have like a strong interest in homes. Now, I didn't see this anywhere, but I would imagine even architecture, just how houses, the actual structure looks like, maybe home decor. So that would be more with Venus in the fourth house, but anything connected to homes could be like some kind of a profession, I would imagine. And so selling homes, decorating homes, and things like that, especially maybe if you have a trine or sextile to Venus. So genealogy may be something that is a hobby that interests you, and you may want to really find out the family's history, which is, genealogy is, finding out your roots and the ancestors and things like that. But deepening that is that the family history is even involving artifacts. So if there have been things that have been handed down, such as the family china or the silverware or photos, anything that are mementos or actual items besides photos that come down the line, antiques. I think antiques in general are fourth house, so that might be a hobby as well. But definitely with your own family and wanting grandma's sofa or something, wanting to preserve these things because you want it to go on and on. You don't want it to end with you. And I would say, riffing off of that would probably make you more likely to want children because you want to keep that family line going. So rather than being childless, or some people call it child-free, you might want to actually reproduce. And, versus adoption, for instance, because you might say, yeah, we need that DNA, Hard angles from the sun to planets like Mars, Saturn, and Pluto could create the parent who is very smothering to their children, the Cancer, the dark side of Cancer. So overprotective, okay? And you don't want to do that. Just because you have a hard angle to some of these planets doesn't mean that it's a done deal, that you have to act that way. You can actually decide to change. And just actually, this is what makes astrology so valuable. It can just make you aware of it. You might think you're doing a good thing, that you are protecting your child instead of curtailing their development and their ability to form a life apart from you. So there's always multiple ways of looking at things. So this is, when I was endeavoring to do this particular sun in this house, I was thinking, I don't think there's much information on it. I don't think I'm going to make too long of a video. And here I am, and I'm almost at the 27-minute mark. So in any case, I hope that you enjoyed this. And especially if you are an air sign or a fire sign, maybe I have enlightened you a little bit about your nature, because you may have scratched your head, and even if you don't have any personal planets in Cancer, you may feel like a Cancer, and you're kind of like an honorary Cancer if your sun sign is in the 4th house, even if you're a fire sign. I said your sun sign, if your sun is in the 4th house. Even if you're a fire sign, you definitely crave domestic bliss, and that's wonderful. Okay, well, I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you'd like a natal chart interpretation, I do have a couple of options available. Take care. Bye.